So I bet we have all been there when we are watching a YouTube video of a polyglot who speaks 10, 15, even 20 languages sometimes, and we find ourselves comparing ourselves really easily to them. We never get to see the full story. That is what I want to bring into this video today as we watch together my Speaking 9 Languages, How I Learned Each Language, sort of polyglot check video that I made about 4 years ago. You might also want to check out this video that I'm going to link in the corner above, where I really go into why I felt so bad making this video. I was going through a really tough time in my language learning journey. I was dealing with a lot of comparison as well, just watching all of these other polyglot YouTube videos, and I thought I just had to make the same one, even though this kind of content does not feel authentic to me. And that says nothing about the other creators that make this kind of content showing their progress. No idea where they're coming from, but just for me, it felt very inauthentic. I hope that this will be a really informative and more wholesome view of the language learning process, because even though I'm out here talking about languages and stuff, even though I opened this channel, I have definitely had my own struggles with comparison and with expectation of what it means to be a real language learner. So let's jump in and I'll talk to you guys more about that. Today I have a very special video for you guys because I'm going to be speaking in all of the 9 languages that I know. So I got the sort of flashcard idea because I wanted to show that this video was not scripted, because I know that there's a lot of speculation of if people can actually speak the languages that they claim at the level that they claim. And so I thought that I would put out these note cards and try to make it as authentic as possible, but you can't even read what the note cards, what's written on the note cards in the first place. I'm gonna also say, even though I took turns just picking out different note cards anyways, I had already filmed this kind of video about 3 or 4 times before prior, and I just wasn't satisfied because I felt like I had seen, you know, so many mistakes, or I paused too long in just when I was trying to express myself in one of the languages, and I would just redo the whole sort of filming for this. So yeah, that'll give you sort of a theme of what I'm going to talk further about as we go into this video.
Me chiamo Emily e io não sou brasileira, oi sou americana, no tenho una família.
So I remember I was, I think, using a little bit of Pimsleur lesson 1 to like 5. I think that was the information that I was trying to communicate in this language. And I had a lot of pressure on myself not only to make this video, but include as many languages as possible to make it look impressive and make it look like, you know, I was really confident, right? Because I feel like that's a big characteristic of all these sort of polyglot check videos, is that everyone seems really comfortable in themselves and confident, and that's what us as language learners in general, probably the majority of us really want. So I really wanted to project that and make me feel like I was more confident than I really was. But I was super nervous filming this, especially since I had such a little of a background in Brazilian Portuguese in the first place.
Una operación, estudio portugués há uma semana e tenho também 3 livros para estudar. Вообще-то я не очень много изучала русский в этом году, в этом месяце, но я начала русский язык, может быть, 4 месяца назад.
Yeah, so this was actually made after I did sort of a Russian language challenge for myself. Like, I wanted to see how much Russian I could learn in total in about 3 months. So I would say this part of the video is, as much as it can be, right, after refilming this like 3 or 4 times, pretty authentic just in terms of my level, because I was mostly practicing talking about language learning in Russian. So yeah, and I'm proud of myself for understanding what I'm saying, because I took a break from Russian for like 2.5 to 3 years after this video.
Italiano. Da dove posso cominciare, ragazzi? L'italiano è veramente una delle lingue più belle del mondo. Ve lo giuro, solo perché, non lo so, è una lingua che mi sta molto vicino al cuore, visto che ho passato solo un semestre in Italia, non direi che parlo in italiano al 100% perfettamente, ma questo non è il punto, no? ho sperimentato così tante cose.
You guys, I actually think my Italian has gotten like a little bit worse because this was filmed again in 2020 or 21, and I studied abroad in Italy in 2017, and my Italian was pretty great, actually, because I was just so in love with the language and the culture, and even though there's maybe like 3 years difference in between the making of this video and when I was really like, I guess at the height of my Italian progress and when I was feeling really confident in how I spoke, it has since then been like 7, almost 8 years since I was in Italy. So I would say even though my Italian pronunciation is still like pretty close to what it used to be back in 2017, my vocabulary and my flexibility with grammar has definitely gone down, which I also think is normal. But I also think in this video, like I was thinking really consciously about what kind of things that I wanted to say, because I also noticed in polyglot check videos, there is not a lot of pausing. Like I feel like there's a lot of, if you can speak faster, that means you're more fluent kind of thing, you know? And I remember as well, I think it's the very first video on my channel that I made completely in Italian, and I was just speaking. And that one wasn't scripted, actually. I just wanted to talk about how I learned Italian in Italian, and someone had commented, you know, I think you're an A2 because you speak really slowly. Even just thinking about, you know, I need to speak as fast as possible. So you can already see like the pressure building. And given I was trying to film this like the whole day, so this pressure and like all of these emotions with my high expectations of myself, but also remembering what YouTube comments I had gotten about my own languages from strangers, that really upped the expectation that I put on myself. That really made this whole filming process a lot more miserable and a lot less enjoyable than I am portraying it to be in the video itself.
Per quanto riguarda la grammatica è molto simile, quindi ci mi sfugge qualcosa?
Yeah, ci mi sfugge qualcosa. That I have so many, or I had, especially when I was worried about being perceived as like not the level that I really knew that I was online. I had a lot of little sayings in my back pocket that I had heard from, you know, different podcasts, or that I had heard from even native speakers when I was in Italy. I was like, for some reason that really stuck with me. And ci mi sfugge qualcosa is something that I probably wouldn't use now because I've forgotten some of the language. And also, even though it's generally a good strategy to help the fluidity of speech, I feel like I just wasn't coming from a really enjoyable place using it, if you know what I mean. Like I was like, okay, I have to throw this in so people won't think I'm, you know, a polyglot fraud or something like that as I was filming this video. Makes me want to give the previous version of myself who was making this a really big hug, honestly.
Ho già spiegato molte cose in un altro video che vado a mettere sullo schermo.
And you guys can already see I did do like different cuts, and all of these cuts were when I thought that I was pausing way too long to think about something, even though in reality, when we are speaking, and even if as I'm speaking in this video in my native language, English, I'm doing a lot of pauses and I am backing up sometimes what I say, but I just had such a pressure on myself to, again, speak as fast as possible, fill in all the gaps of the video, as if that were like a real indicator in just like 3 or 2 minutes of speaking in a language of my whole comprehensive level, if you know what I mean. So yeah, just makes me sad.
Quindi potete guardare e dare un'occhiata a quel video. Tamam. Şimdi Türkçe birazcık konuşacağım. Ve aşağı yukarı 3 yıl önce Türkçe'ye başladım. Almanya'dayken Türkçe'ye çalışmaya karar verdim. Sadece çünkü Almancam pek iyiydi. Ve Almancayı öğrendikten sonra
I was having such a mental block with Turkish around this time. I was very frustrated that I wasn't learning it at the pace that I had learned in the past, Italian and German, which I had learned both of those in less than a year, respectively. And so yeah, it was just frustrating to get to this new language, having a very different grammar structure, having a different pronunciation, and not meeting up to my expectations. This is what I love to coach language learners on now, because if you recognize your own struggles and what I am explaining I was struggling with, even in the making of this video, then I really try to use that personal experience and how I help other language learners really overcome those obstacles. Because I know how, like, it felt like an undercurrent of anxiety every single time that I opened my mouth to speak Turkish. And it was really scary for me in this moment, I remember, to actually speak Turkish and try to pretend that everything was okay, even though I had so many mental blocks about being frustrated that I wasn't quote unquote learning fast enough, or that I should be doing this and this for Turkish. I will say, I mean, my performance was really good, I guess, in terms of like not including a lot of mistakes, in terms of not including a lot of pauses, but it definitely wasn't my authentic level in Turkish at the time.
Pero no es que lo haya estudiado muy a menudo desde entonces, pero puedo decir que lo aprendí solo a causa del hecho de que había muchísimos alemanes allí.
Yeah, I would say I actually felt pretty confident in Spanish, and I think that that is a pretty, I guess, normal thing, especially when we're trying to juggle multiple languages, and how we and our confidence in each one can really differ from one another, I guess just depending on the day, depending on the life season. And in this season, I remember I felt very confident in Spanish, again, just because I had had such a strong base in Italian.
J'ai honte de parler un peu en français parce que, en fait, je dirais que j'ai l'apprise aussi à l'école et à l'université, mais je ne dirais pas que je le parle couramment.
So I actually, again, felt very self-conscious speaking in French, because I kept on being told by other people that I have a very German accent when I speak French, which I think is really interesting in hindsight. But I remember being pretty self-conscious about that. I mean, I'm telling you guys, like, you know, besides speaking in Italian and Spanish up to this point, like, none of this video was fun for me to make. And again, it makes me really sad, because I was really trying to fit into the box that I perceived I needed to fit into in order to feel like I had the, I guess, right to open up a YouTube channel.
Alles klar, also ich glaube, Deutsch war halt die allererste Sprache, die ich fließend gelernt habe. Und also eigentlich könnte ich halt so viel auf einmal sagen.
I will say, as I have said in other videos, German is, and probably will always be, my very best language, because it's a language that now, you know, I don't need any input in order to speak it. I don't need any input in order to teach it, or I guess like an input warm-up before I go into the language. And I would say even that my accent in German was even better in 2017 than it is now, just because I haven't been living in Germany among Germans for a while. But yeah, I kind of sound like a Dortmunder a little bit, because that's where I did spend my study abroad year in Dortmund. So I think this was, again, one of the very rare moments in the video where I did feel like it was fun filming.
أهلا وسهلا فيكم. أنا من أمريكا، بس عم أتعلم العربي، عم أتعلم العامية. كان بدي بلش أتعلم الفصحى كمان، بس إذا عم حاول أتعلم اثنين بنفس الوقت، هذا راح يكون كتير صعب علي. كان بدي بلش الفصحى من شي سنة، بس كمان كان بدي أحكي فهمت إنه هذا مش ممكن.
Yeah, so as I'm filming this, I'm actually finishing up my semester in Jordan at a language school to specifically improve my Arabic. And again, I had, when I was filming this video, the same mental blocks that I had with Turkish. So a very different language, a different script, very little resources that would help me get from beginner up until advanced, and I felt like, again, I wasn't learning fast enough, so this wasn't the funnest part to film. And yeah, I can definitely say I've definitely improved. If I had never understood my own story when I was looking at this video, I would have probably thought that I wasn't suffering mentally. Suffering may be like a really strong word, but I feel like it wasn't far off the mark, just because, yeah, I just had so many mental blocks with comparing and losing fun in the process. Again, which is why I'm so passionate about coaching language learners with a lot of mental blocks, because I know exactly what it feels like, and I know exactly how I survived and got out of it and started to learn, not only different languages that I never thought that I would, but also just have confidence that carried me through all of these hard times sometimes that we go through as language learners. But yeah, you guys, don't believe everything that you see online. And I am the very first one to tell you this, ironically, because I was not being 100% honest as I was filming, this kind of content. And, to a point, I think that creators can never really fully go unscripted, just because if they have a video idea, then they know at least what they want to talk about, right? But I do feel that as I bring out more of these episodes in this Language Learner Diary series, that I really want to bring more authenticity and honesty into the language learning space, because I really don't think that we see enough of what goes on behind the scenes of a language learner's honest journey. I would say that some of my levels were exactly how they were portrayed, especially in the languages that I felt really comfortable with the languages that I didn't feel comfortable with and that I had a lot of mental blocks with. Those were not truthful, and I wish I just had enough bravery to show it like it is. But again, there's a lot of nuance with just putting yourself online out for everyone to, in a sense, probably tear you down, or have at least a few trolls really want to point out what you're doing wrong or what you're not doing. The critical comments, I remember, always got to me more. And I feel like that was definitely a layer on top of my already big, really mental blocks with language learning that just didn't mesh well with this whole video process. So I have made a commitment to myself that I will never make another video like this again, especially with some of the titles. I have done, different challenges that are more recent on my channel that are a lot more unscripted. Because at this point, I'm very confident in, whatever language I'm going into. And I'm really grateful for the mental work that I've done in order to get there and be able to coach language learners on doing the same thing. But it has definitely been, I guess, kind of a moral of mine specifically to never make another polyglot check video, just because I know that I would not be coming from it in an authentic way, and I don't want to contribute to the language learning space like that anymore. Even though, I have a lot of compassion for my 2020 self that was really just trying to do her best with what she had, which was a lot of, love for languages, but really buried under a lot of mental blocks, as you could see. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you are interested in more honest, authentic, mindful language learning content. I'd love to know your comments as well below if you have struggled with some of the same mental blocks that you've seen me talk about in this video, and we'll see each other next week.